You have a rich patron with infinite wealth who is extremely generous. Welcome to Community Update number 4. Let's begin with our dua. أعوذ بكلمات بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم تحصنت بذي العزة واعتصمت برب الملكوت وتوكلت على الحي الذي لا يموت اللهم اصرف عنا الوباء بلطفك يا لطيف إنك على كل شيء قدير. Let's say this one 3 times as well. تحصنت بذي العزة واعتصمت برب الملكوت وتوكلت على الحي الذي لا يموت اللهم اصرف عنا الوباء بلطفك يا لطيف إنك على كل شيء قدير. تحصنت بذي العزة واعتصمت برب الملكوت وتوكلت على الحي الذي لا يموت اللهم اصرف عنا الوباء بلطفك يا لطيف إنك على كل شيء قدير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Alhamdulillah, and welcome everyone to Community Update number 4, and we're on day 5 of this whole thing, and I'm counting from Friday. So Friday, even though Thursdays, most of the schools were off, not all the schools, but Friday is the day that we really felt a big change, because for the first time in most of our lives, Jummah was not held intentionally by the masjid, not just for us, as individual musallin didn't go due to an issue, but the whole masjid, the masjid didn't have Jummah. By next Friday, pretty much it'll be the opposite. You'll be asking who's holding Jummah, who is actually doing Jummah. So counting from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and today's day number 5. Now, in the beginning, it was a helter-skelter. It was like, how are we not having Jummah? And if you notice, that was the first topic. And are we doing the right thing? And a lot of other discussions like that. Well, last night there was a little turn, okay? And after the subject of the schools, if you notice Saturday was all about getting toilet paper and paper towels and how empty the racks were in the stores. And then Monday was about the schools. I mean, how are we going to have school? And let's get everyone situated, all right? And last night, though, something happened that continued into today that informed, all right, and gave me, a topic that we really need to discuss and talk about. And that is, people started settling down, in a sense. You got your toilet paper, you got your schools, have their plans. The idea of cancellation is no longer a subject in a debate. Everything's being shut down, so there's no sort of question mark about that. We now settled into a higher order type of question. And that is, what about the economic situation, right? And last night I was on a call, and this afternoon I was on a call, and the topic kept coming up, right? And the same topic came up, that certain industries are completely reliant upon cash flow, right? More so than others. And in the sense that certain companies, what they get, they spend a little bit, okay? They immediately pay their people, and they buy more supplies. And that's the nature of it. There's no savings in a lot of small businesses, okay? There's an immediate cash flow that comes in, that they rely upon that. That's their oxygen. And one friend of mine said, an elder from the MBIC community, he said, first lesson in business, the oxygen of any business is cash, right? That means money coming in right now. Okay, money's coming in right now. So all of a sudden, this is stopping. I drove down today that I had to go somewhere, and all of a sudden, I'm looking, Wendy's, empty parking lot, right? Even supermarkets, 3-4 cars, okay? Diner, completely empty parking lot. Mall, empty parking lot. So what happens to all these industries? And now you hear people talking a different conversation. The conversation is not about Jummah. Conversation is not about closing schools. The conversation is now about people's cash flow and what's going to happen and how much reserve do they have left, to last them if this continues. Okay. And some fields, some businesses, it's literally 2 weeks. If they don't have a cash flow for 2 weeks, people are getting laid off. Already airlines are getting laid off. Okay. Now, this got me thinking that there's going to be another virus. And this virus is the real virus. You think that the bodily virus is bad. This is the real virus. And this is what we have to look at and tackle it head on. And we're going to do that today. Okay. And that's the virus of poor thinking. All right. The virus of poverty-laden thoughts. Okay. And these thoughts are the real crippling virus. Right. And if you think that merely the bodily issue is bad, no, this is one of what we talked about the other day. What are the unintended consequences of this thing? Well, one of them is bad thoughts to start descending like a black cloud on people. And we talked yesterday that waba, plagues, are they a punishment or is it a mercy? And if you missed it, well, I'll review it. And also, I'd like to also welcome the Dean Essential students that I always teach in person on Tuesday. A very nice group of young youth who come to MBIC, and we have a class every Tuesday. And this is doubling for their class. So if it's doubling for your class, then make sure you jot certain of these things down. And there's one principle that we can never say it enough. When a bad thing happens, if you react to it and get better by your reaction to it, then it's good for you. If you react to it with just patience and you don't become better or worse, then it's bad for you. If you react to it and you become worse, then it was a punishment. Now, it's not just actions. Your reaction to something is not just actions, all right? How we handle something is not just, did I make wudu more? Did I make salah more? That's the body. That's great. But it's also my thoughts. And dua is truly up in here. There's a story of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. A man came to him and said, "Oh, Musa, I have a big problem. What's my dua for this?" And he said, "I'll ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." And he asked Allah ta'ala. And Allah ta'ala told him certain words. If he says these words, his problem will be solved. He went back because the words of Allah, as we said in the previous one as well. Okay, maybe the second community update. I'm losing track now. That words of Allah ta'ala have power to them. That we believe in them more than we believe in asbab, physical cause and effect. And he said them, and nothing happened. So he came some few days later and said, Sayyidina Musa, can you ask Allah again? Because nothing happened. I still have this terrible problem. So he asked Allah again. And in this time, he came back and he said the same exact thing. And Sayyidina Musa reviewed it. Are you sure you're saying it the same? Because if a dhikr comes from Allah and His Messenger, you have to say it exactly how they said it. Okay? So he said it again. So, some period of time later, he came and said, "Oh, Musa, I still have this problem." So Sayyidina Musa said, "This is ajib, because when Allah gives a promise, it's true." So he went and he checked, and lo and behold, the words were exactly correct that he said. And he said, "Oh Allah, why is this abd saying this? But it's not his dua isn't being answered." He said, "He calls on me with his tongue while his heart is counting his sheep." So he's calling on me with his tongue, but it's not up in here. Whether you say mind, whether you say heart, it's the same thing for us. And that's why I'm saying that how we react to a situation, it's not just the effect on our body, it's the effect up here. And let's take a look at an example of this is really, truly spiritual law. Now, what is spiritual law? It's, as we said, the real reason things happen. There is cause and effect, but there's the real reason things happen. And what is some of the real reasons things happen? The first thing is that reality is a result of actions. The world that we live in today, it's a result of actions. Actions are the result of words. Words are the result of thoughts. And I'll tell you why Islam is the most powerful movement on the earth. If we act upon it, okay? And it's al-haq, not to call it a movement, but it is al-haq. But in the sense of calling it a movement, okay, when we act upon it, nothing can stop this, because Islam is a deen that knows and teaches us how to get into here, how to get into the realm of thoughts before we get into the realm of action, okay, and how we affect your heart and your view of the world. And so, reality is actions, words. Actions come out of words. Words come out of thoughts, okay? This is spiritual law. Your thoughts have to be purified. And I'm actually upset at myself because I entitled this thing, Don't Fear Poverty. Wrong title. If someone from our team and our staff could go in there and then and fix this title, okay, whether now or afterwards. Why? Because don't is a negative. There's no action in don't. It's a negative, right? Fear is a horrible word. I'm already scared, right? Poverty, it's a bad thing. So the whole title's horrible. You read this, Don't Fear Poverty, and deep in your mind, you already put yourself in a negative situation. How do I not fear something, right? Right? How do I not fear something? There's no action involved. Okay, there's no visual, and poverty is a negative thing. The whole title's negative. So that was a mistake. That actually should be changed, and I changed it in other areas, but I never got to change it here. The right words that we have to say. Okay, we have to think very carefully about our words, and don't take this lightly. Don't take this lightly. Okay, the words that you say, which reflect the thoughts that you think, they can become reality. Okay, if you're not careful, and if you keep repeating them. And Allah Ta'ala takes people's words and dua as they say them. Okay, why? Because that's justice. Nobody should say, well, Allah should have understood what I meant. No, that's not how it works. Okay, as the words that we say and repeat to ourselves. So rather, the words that we say should be, I have a rich patron with infinite wealth who is extremely generous. That's actually a far better title. All of a sudden, you're imagining a king is by my side watching me. Okay, let's take a look at an example of the Prophet ﷺ acting upon this. Now, what was the worst moment, the scariest moment, the most dangerous moment in the seerah of the Messenger ﷺ? What was that moment? That moment, without doubt, was the Battle of the Khandaq. The Battle of the Khandaq is when Quraysh said, enough is enough. And this is the last act we're doing. And we are finishing Islam once and for all. And Abu Sufyan went on a campaign that lasted him many months to plan for this. And when a very smart man, Abu Sufyan, he's not someone to take lightly. When a very smart man commits himself to an action for months and months and months, then you know that you're in for something big. And he went around all of Arabia and he gathered men from every single tribe. And they made an army called the Confederates, like they were like a Confederate army, a group of army that came together. Al-Ahzab. They came with their own flags. They came out and they met and they marched upon the city of Medina. They outnumbered the Muslims far. You can't count how they outnumbered the Muslims. The news came to the city and gripped the city, completely gripped the city with fear. It's like, it's one thing when you're outnumbered 3-1, like in the Battle of Badr, they were outnumbered 3-1. 3-1, you can work with that, right? It was miraculous. 3-1 already is amazing. But this was way beyond 3-1. Way beyond 3-1. Okay. So what was the plan? As many of you know from the story of Al-Khandaq, the plan was hatched by the thought of Salman al-Farisi, the Persian, to do what? He said, when we have a situation like this in Persia, we dig a ditch. So they proceeded to dig a ditch all around the city. Okay? And they were working and working and working, and they would look up and see how much space is left. How much is left to dig? And the Prophet would see sometimes a look on their faces. Okay? Right? Look on their faces. So he started now saying certain words. Okay? And singing to them certain lines and words that, to the effect that, I am the Prophet, this is no lie. Okay? And other words to the effect that Allah will give them victory. Now, there's one instance that I want to draw your attention to. And here came that they're digging and there was a boulder that they couldn't break. No one could break it. They're all trying to break it. Right? And there's no time for delays. So here you have the worst moment of the worst moment. that they're trying to dig this ditch and they come across a rock, almost like the base of a mountain, that they couldn't break. All right, with all their efforts, they could not break this rock, which means that this is going to be a bridge for the enemy to come into the city. Okay, so at this moment, as the Prophet was beginning to bang with his own pickaxe on the rock, he looked and he informed the Sahaba. He said, this strike that he's about to strike is for our conquest of Yemen. And he struck. This one is for our conquest of Persia. And he struck. This one is for our conquest over Rome, Byzantium. And he struck. Now just think for a second. You don't even have security over your city at this time. What are you conquering? You don't have no control over your own city. Okay? The reason is that the Anbiya, they have a secret, and they've given us a secret. And this is not a secret. This is something that should be spread. Okay? And that is نحن أوثق بما عند الله مما في أيدينا. We have more trust in the wealth that is in the hand of Allah than the wealth that's in our hands. We trust more in the wealth that's with our patron, who made us in the first place, who's watching us, who has an infinite warehouse. Then we trust in this situation. The cause and effect that scares us in this situation, okay, is outweighed by our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what Islam has brought people that no other movement has brought. So, and any other religion that has it is from the inheritance of the truth that they've taken from their prophets. Okay, from that prophet that they're following. That if they have this, then that's the remnants of that same truth. But no other movement's can give you this. No secular set of thoughts is going to give you this. Okay, even the positive thinking movement. Why do we have a positive thinking when we have Islam? The positive thinking movement. Okay, but what are you actually relying upon? Like, where's the proof that this is actually any truthfulness to it? And who are you relying upon? But we as mu'mineen have already admitted Allah created us and created the whole world. So therefore we should think very carefully on our words. And there are certain things that are mentioned over and over in the Quran. If you notice, anything related to a temptation is mentioned with exact detail, and it's repeated over and over and over. So for example, marriage. Okay? Who you can marry. Everyone loves marriage, right? But for this, the Quran went with such a detail of who you cannot marry that you wonder. He says your mother and your sister and your mother's sister and etc. and so on and so forth, right? And he gives you details name by name or relationship by relationship. Why? Because people love marriage, right? And that anything that people have a temptation to, Allah Ta'ala brings it in detail. Animals, which animal can we not eat? Al-maytatu wan-natiha wama akrasu, and all the animal that you find dead, and the one that was hit in the head and is like dizzy and can't move, and the one that's been eaten by another animal, like it's got a leg been eaten. You can't eat any of this, okay? And you cannot eat the flesh of the plague, and all of this. So with detail, it gives us in the Quran. People, and I've said this many times, they have no issue with salah. Nobody. I don't believe people have issue with salah. I believe that they have issue with wudu, right? And this one of my teachers told me in England that it's not salah that people have an issue with. It's wudu. And there was a great man from England, from the people who converted in the early Norwich community. Okay, that there was a family that he came upon in Algeria. He traveled to Algeria, and this family, they got up to pray, and one young man didn't get up to pray. So he said, what about him? They said, oh, he doesn't pray. He said, well, you have to do something. You can't just leave it like that. He said, get up and pray. He said, I don't have wudu. He said, get up and pray without wudu. They said, what? He said, yes. Well, I'll get him used to salah until he's embarrassed to pray without wudu. And then, of course, he started making wudu, right? But people are worried about wudu. So tell us, and tell me if I'm wrong. You get up. If you have wudu, you pray right away. If you still have to make wudu, you all of a sudden make excuses, because a human being by nature doesn't want to roll up his sleeves and get wet. Okay? Tell me which one has Allah Ta'ala specified in the Quran. He specified exactly how to make wudu. He did not specify how to make salah, right? So wudu. So, but what's my point in all this? And how's this all related? It's all related because we also have a proclivity to despair. Human beings have a proclivity as soon as they see something bad in front of them to go down in their thoughts, to go negative, all right? And you have to see yourself when your thoughts are taking a nosedive and hunkering in, okay? This qabd is coming upon you. And this is what you have to avoid. And that's why Allah Ta'ala has Al-Razzaq, Al-Wakil, Al-Kareem. How many divine names are giving you hope? Okay? How many divine names has He given? And all over 100 times in the Quran, there are references that a mu'min should have hope. That a mu'min should have, it's not even hope. There comes a point, and you're, inshallah, going to reach this point, that it's not hope. It's a matter of knowledge. That Allah is there, and He has, so I don't need to worry exactly about my situation. Now, there's one part of the deal, okay? The one part of, this is a deal. It's a two-way deal. This is not a candy machine, right? Or a free thing. The one part of the deal is, it's guaranteed. Al-Faraj, release, getting what you want, all of these, what you need and what you want, all of these things, it's guaranteed. What's part of the deal? What do you have to pay? The timing is with Allah. The time is from Allah Ta'ala. So your deal is sabr and thiqah, trust, and iman. Okay? So this is the second point I want to talk about. This situation that's coming upon a person, okay, it's about trust. What we're talking about here is not something that we're claiming is something that gets immediate results. What we're claiming from the Anbiya, from the Quran, is that the result is guaranteed, but the timing is from Allah, so therefore it requires trust. This what we may, Allahu Alam, this whole situation may deflate much faster than we imagine, right? This whole situation may end quickly, right? And it may not. And so therefore, we are doing taslim. We're trusting in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the guaranteed outcome is going to be good. The rizq is going to come. But we are going to have trust. And if Allah wills good for us, then He trains us well. And when He trains us well, it means He prolongs the test. I mean, what's a better profession? A profession, what's going to get you better results? A profession where all you need is a 6-hour class. You sign up, you go and you sign up and you go take a community, you go into a community center, take a 6-hour class and boom, go do it. Or the one that requires you 6 years in schooling. Which training has a better result, right? Is going to get you the better result. Obviously, the no-brainer. The one that's going to take you, the one that's for 7 years, right? You know for sure, 6 years, you know for sure that's what's going to get a job that's better, right? So likewise, if the matter is prolonged, then you know that Allah's training us for something big. This is training. And the training of a mu'min and the strengthening of a mu'min is not the strength of his muscles. It's not the strength of his pocketbook. It's not the strength of his brain. It's not the strength of anything. It's the strength of his trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? It's the strength of his trust. So we're in a win-win. If this matter prolongs, then Allah is training us to trust in Him for something bigger in the future. That's good, that we're going to have to handle. Okay? And if it's short, then good. Then we don't have to have a hassle. We don't have to worry about anything. All right? So we're in a win-win. And that's the beauty of it. Okay? Now, another part of this is taslim. And taslim is don't resist. Don't resist the divine will. What is the difference between divine will, right? How do I identify divine will? Divine will is anything that you could reasonably say is out of my control. If you can reasonably say something's out of my control, right? It's completely out of my control. We call that the divine will, which means the actions of the people sitting next to you is divine will, right? your own friends' behavior and what they say and everything, your boss, everything is divine will. Only thing, and even your own action is divine will, but we say that after the fact. We don't say that before the fact. Oh, it's divine will that I have to, hit you upside the head. No. So we treat everything as divine will. Now, what is the greatest element that Allah Ta'ala uses in His creation? Right? What is the greatest, not an element scientifically speaking, but thing in nature? It's water. Allah Ta'ala created from everything, He created it from water. Right? Everything living is from water. Now, why is water one of the greatest substances? And it's the only substance we can use to purify ourselves for salah. And it's the greatest substance. That water of Zamzam is what we drink. And it's that Allah Ta'ala placed His throne on water. And that in heaven, in paradise, there are rivers, right? And in the Yawm al-Qiyamah, there is a fountain called Al-Kawthar, right? Which we drink from before entering paradise, and you never have thirst again. So water is such an amazing creation. And one of the features to water is it offers zero resistance. You want to make it ice, it can become ice. You put it in gravity, it submits to gravity. You want to burn it and evaporate it, you can evaporate it. Water does not resist. And this is how a mu'min should be with divine will. Now, not resisting does not mean not acting. Resistance is in the heart. Action is with the body. So Sharia may tell you to act. So what does it mean if I have to act but I can't resist? What does that even mean? What it means is that we recognize that what's happening is from Allah. It's the recognition. This is the definition of taslim in Islamic theology or in Sharia or tazkiyah, whatever you want to call it. The definition of taslim, what we say, don't resist, okay? Accept the divine will, is recognize who it's coming from. Have firm iman and belief that the ending is good, and be patient in between. I mean, look how beautiful that is, right? Know who it's from. That's the origin. Recognize, believe with certainty that the end result will be good. Okay? And I will trust in Allah and have patience in between, right? And the marker of patience. How do I know if I'm having patience? Do I have a scorecard? Can I get a scorecard? Yeah, the scorecard is your words, your language. What wording do you use? Okay? We have beautiful words. Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Beautiful adhkar. Okay? Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Is Allah is enough for me. And what a wonderful one to rely upon. What a blessed one to rely upon. That's the meaning of the word. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There is no power, no strength except with Allah. Okay. Wa huwa ar-razzaq. He is ar-razzaq. The one who he's constantly giving rizq. Al-Kareem, the generous. بل يداه مبسوطتان ينفق كيف يشاء. His hands, in other words, قالوا يد الله مغلولة. All right? People said from Bani Israel, Allah Ta'ala, he withholds. He's stingy. All right? He's stingy. بل, no, يداه مبسوطتان. His hands are always giving. مبسوطتان. Open palms. And this is a metaphor. We know that Allah Ta'ala doesn't have physical hands, but it's a metaphor. When I say mabsutatan, look, I'm giving you like this. I'm giving you like this. Mabsutatan, wide open, giving. So if that's His attribute in the Quran, whenever He withholds, He only withholds to train you for something greater than rizq. We are gonna go in a path. It could be over very soon. It could not be. Either way, we're winning. We're going on a path of training to trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we can expect the unexpected. Whatever comes is from Allah. The ending is good, and we're going to have sabr in between. And how do we determine our sabr? With our words. So be very mindful of the words that you utter. And be mindful with your thoughts. And start repeating. Start repeating. I repeat to myself constantly, I have a rich patron. He has infinite wealth. And he's full of generosity. And I just repeat this to myself whenever a thought comes about finances. Because so many businesses, their cash flow is shut. Remember, Allah Ta'ala never will shut. His attribute is He's a giver. If He restricts, it's to give something better. All right? And that greater thing is thiqa billah, trust in Allah. Learn to trust. All of us, we should be honored, to be honest with you. Has there ever been a generation, what was the last generation, maybe 100 years ago or something, where they've been literally forced into a type of khalwa? They've been forced, cut out, no entertainment, right? This is like tasawwuf, we're like zuhad here, right? I mean, if someone said, here, I'm going to give you spiritual training. What is this spiritual training? All right, first thing, no more entertainment. What? Is there another method I can use here? Is there another opinion on this? Is there another sheikh around? Right? But here Allah Ta'ala is elevating us. No more sports. No more going to eat out. All right? No more needed to drive in the car and listen to music in the radio, which most people probably do. Right? No more going and hanging out in the shopping malls on Saturday. If a sheikh came and says, hey community, let me give you this path. It's a great path. This is what you have to do. Boom, 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 boom. Everyone would say, no, thank you. But here Allah Ta'ala is forcing it upon us, right? We should take this as an honor. We are honored, okay? And some people in our community, and it's going to increase, all right? Just by, statistically, they have contracted COVID-19 and have tested positive. Look at the glass half full. Even if the empty part is really bad, but look at the glass half full. What do you have to lose? Why would you... If there's a positive and a negative, and I can't control this anyway, why would I sit there staring at the negative and worrying and ruining myself? Oh, let me stare at the positive. The positive, hey, I'm home with my family. The positive, now I can do what I couldn't do before in terms of ibadat, in terms of adhkar, in terms of just thinking that Allah has selected me for this trial and this ibtila. This is how a mu'min thinks. Unbelievable how the Prophet ﷺ has put us on a constant win-win. If you're healthy, good. Run and go do good and enjoy the ni'mah of Allah. If you're sick, Allah's chosen you. Now, look at this. Allah Ta'ala is with the sick when He's patient. He's with the poor when He's impoverished. He's with the hungry when He's hungry. What's the proof of this? Okay. That the Prophet ﷺ told us a hadith Qudsi. Hadith Qudsi means the meaning is from Allah, but the language is from the Prophet ﷺ. And the speaker in a hadith Qudsi is Allah Himself. So this one hadith Qudsi, one of the most beautiful ones, He said, Allah Ta'ala comes to a man on Yawm al-Qiyamah from the Muslims, and He says, I was hungry and you never fed me. I was thirsty, you never gave me to drink. I was sick and you never visited me. And the man is thinking, how is this even possible? He said, oh Allah, you're the Lord of glory. How could you ever be hungry, thirsty, or sick? He said, my servant was hungry and you didn't give him food. My servant was thirsty and you didn't give him drink. And my servant was sick and you never visited me. Had you fed the hungry, you would have found me there. Have you given drink to the thirsty, you would have found me there. Have you visited the sick, you would have found me there. Subhanallah. This is why we say Allah is with the hungry. He's with the sick. He's with the impoverished. And in what way is He with him? That means if you look around, you'll see Allah with him? No. He's with him with a specific protection from trials and tribulations that this person would have fallen into. He's with him by reducing the actions that he could have done that would have required judgment on Yawm al-Qiyamah. He's with him by forcing him to have sabr, to have tawakkul, to remember Allah. By removing from him the desire for lahw al-hadith. The Quran always talks down on lahw al-hadith. And what lahw al-hadith is meaningless talk, right? And when you're healthy, you do the opposite of all these things, right? By necessity. You go and you have a meeting. You can't just go sit in a meeting. You have to have small talk. Lahw al-hadith, meaningless talk, right? And someone says, hey, did you watch the Super Bowl last night? Yeah, I watched it. Of course you had to watch it because everyone in work is going to ask you about it, right? And you can't go and say, no, I'm a zuhad and I'm part of a special religion and we don't do these things. Okay, well, maybe I'll do a deal with someone else then, right? Maybe I'll talk to someone else. In the sense that there are certain things that are sort of parts of life that we engage in. Just semi-necessities, minor little necessities to be aware of certain things, right? So, but that's nonetheless taking up space in our hard drive, taking up space in our hearts, wasting time. Now Allah has freed people from all these things. And that's why we believe that Allah Ta'ala is either giving you ni'mah or He's with you Himself. When He takes away the ni'mah, He is with you Himself because He's with the poor, He's with the hungry, He's with the sick. So He's taken away from you a ni'mah, a blessing, but you have Him now. right? And that's how we view the sickness. So instead of saying, well, my skin doesn't look good. Well, okay, you want to look at all the glass, the empty part of the glass? You're not going to change the situation either way. So what do you have to lose? Look at the positives, okay? And take the actions that the Sharia says. Take that. Remember what we said earlier, community update. Number one, we take all the actions of cause and effect, but we don't believe in them, right? We believe solely in Allah Ta'ala. So your heart doesn't, and your mind don't have to ponder all the negatives, ponder the positives, right? So let's take a look at if there's anything else we left off. In conclusion, don't expose yourself to the virus of bad thinking. This is another virus. And mark my word, don't listen to the news. All of a sudden, and if the media has any sense of responsibility, they just should cancel these reports, right? The reports of just businesses collapsing, stock market collapsing, all these things, okay? It's going to happen either way. Why think about it so much, right? So push your heart and your mind in thinking and behave knowing that you have a very wealthy, rich, infinitely rich patron watching you. He's watching you. He's testing you. So put the wealth where it needs to go. Be smart about it, but don't have a stingy streak. Don't let it develop inside of you. A what do they call them? Worry worms or whatever? A worrier. Don't let that grow inside of you. If that tree grows inside of you, honestly, the flu is a lot less painful for you. It's a lot less bad for you than if worrier, the attribute of being a worrier, right? And there are some people who are worriers. Like they love to sit and think negative. And a mu'min doesn't do this, right? It becomes a tree that sucks all the life out of you, right? Why? Worrying like that, I mean, when you do these types of things and you resist and you worry, it's as if you're giving the khalq, right? You're giving the creation and this thing that you hate, you're giving it life. Whereas our view is that it's nothing other than a tool that the most wise is using. When you look at it like that, all right, it's no big deal, right? If the most wise is using it, then it must have a wisdom behind it. So let me not resist him. Let me just do what he told me to do. And I know that to trust in the most wise. So these are some thoughts we have had for today after this discussion. And one of the things that I want to talk about as well is that we're taking action. Alhamdulillah, that Allah Ta'ala has blessed us with He's honored us with the ability to take some action. And that action is going to be led by Sami Katovic, who I'm going to bring onto the phone right now. And he's going to explain to us exactly what's going to go on and how we're going to help. And if some of the staff, the team, I should say, here, I like the word team better than the word staff. No one works for anyone here. We work together and we're a team. Eventually, they will have some forms that you could put out and sign up to help and sign up to receive help as well. So let's listen into Sami. Sami Katovic, you with us? Assalamu alaikum. Sami, you with us?
Yes.
All right. So what do you have for us on the side of MBIC? And for those who aren't from MBIC, you could follow along and maybe imitate the same thing in your masjid.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah Sheikh Shadi, for your messaging and for following up on these updates. I wanted to just let you know people are listening. Earlier tonight, my daughter was getting frustrated with my son, was lounging around in his messy room, and she proceeded to tell him, Sheikh Shadi said, you have to keep it clean.
Alhamdulillah, that's great. Great to hear.
He bounced right back and he said, yes, but it is 2 times a day that we clean.
SubhanAllah. Alhamdulillah. That's great to hear.
So, yeah. So people are listening, alhamdulillah. No, Jazakallah for that and your messaging tonight. I think it was right on point on many things. And one of the things I think that you really touched on is this idea of seizing the opportunity and taking the benefit in that and seeing the positive that it is. And I think that's in all aspects of our lives that we're as you had mentioned. And one of those opportunities I think that we have is to help service members in the community, to be conscious of members in the community maybe that we were not conscious of before, or didn't pay much attention to about how something like this would actually impact people's lives. So, for example, obviously, those who are in difficult job situations, those who may be unemployed as a result of this, those who are vulnerable because they're immunocompromised, what have you, the elderly. There's a lot of factors. I mean, I'm sure the community members start thinking about who these people are who are in the masjid that maybe we didn't give that much attention to because we'd see them there. But now that we don't have that opportunity, it's an opportunity for us then to actually seek people out and try to help them in whatever way that we can. So one of the things that MBIC is doing through its Huda initiative is trying to gather volunteers together that will be able to serve some of these needs. And we put out also for those who have needs to fill out a form. And in that form, it would list the things that they may need, maybe just simple tasks, shopping, certain groceries, goods, etc. It could be more than that, or it could be less. And so I don't, some people who are lonely, for example, who used to see brothers and sisters in the mosque a few times a day or a few times a week. Now that's been deprived of them. Maybe they're in their home alone. To please also fill out in the form, and inshallah ta'ala, one of the beauties of this technology, we spend a lot of time criticizing this technology, but I think we're seeing one of the benefits, especially in times like this, it allows people to connect. So inshallah ta'ala, we can also try to arrange for that, for people to meet up on FaceTime or what have you, to have meaningful discussions and meetings that they may be missing. So we encourage everybody to go out, look at the MBIC website. It has the links there, as well as on Facebook and other social media forums. If you know somebody who is in need, please have them fill out the form. Inshallah, we will be doing our best to respond to those needs according to the resources that we have. But don't do it formally through us. If you know, an uncle or an auntie or something in the community, you have their contact already, just drop them a text, call them, see if there's anything that they need. You can be of service to them, inshallah ta'ala, and, try to provide those services that people may need, inshallah ta'ala. So just see it all as a challenge. It's also an opportunity for those who are in a better state to help those maybe who are not such a good state. So, and so it's an opportunity to seize, to do good for other people, inshallah ta'ala.
Okay, good. So is there an opportunity for any of the elderly to type in, for example, that they have shopping needs that they can't fulfill, and people will drive the groceries to them?
Yes, inshallah ta'ala, yes. That's what we're trying to work on coordinating that, yes. So if they go to the link and they can fill that out, if you know somebody who needs that, you can also have them maybe fill it out for them or contact them if they're not aware of how to do that on the internet. Okay,
sounds good. All right, excellent. Alhamdulillah. Any other announcements that maybe corona-related announcements, federal, state, that you might want to share?
No, the only other thing I'd just like to add is that one of the things that inshallah we're going to be putting out to some of the volunteers, every township there's an emergency team, and so we've been dealing with the North Brunswick Township because that's where we're located, and they do have an emergency team. They're also looking for volunteers to help and services for the town as it may come up. So I encourage everybody to also register for those as well, to look out for them in your township. Just put your name out there, and then they'll start following up, because obviously this is going to be for a long, probably a long haul. And so nobody's, I think, 100% sure what those services will be, but they're trying to get lists of people that they can plug into to help others. So I would suggest doing that. Regarding NBIC, inshallah, obviously the classes, Quran classes, inshallah, should be starting up again for those who are in the Institute of Quran program, as well as I believe your Safina classes are going, inshallah ta'ala. So as much as possible, we're going to be obviously doing stuff online. And so if anybody has difficulty with that, setting up or whatever, they can message somebody and we can try to get somebody to help them out, inshallah ta'ala, how to, access the online content as well. But one thing I just wanted to say, I like the fact that you're doing this, and these updates are going on at a certain time. Mm-hmm. People should try to, I think, move back to that live forum as well, although these things are being recorded and you can watch them later. But I think it's good to try to also participate in these things live. Yeah. And, I think it's great that you're doing these things live. and not just putting it out or recording earlier and putting it out.
Yeah.
But it gives people to that feeling. Just sit with your family or whatever in the evening and join the live program as opposed to just watching a recorded speech or talk. So that's a great opportunity. I think people have to. In the olden days, it was the radio.
Yeah.
Right? People used to gather around the radio for that.
Yeah, listen to the presidential address or something about.
yeah, but even if it was it was a story or
Sure.
people would gather around and the families would gather around, listen to the radio, listen to War of the Worlds back in the day.
Yeah.
But the idea of we've gone so much into this Netflix world and recorded shows and watching it on demand.
Yeah.
It's also good to restructure and take advantage of that opportunity again to get a taste of what it means to wait for something, sit with the family in the live form as well. So
that's one of the best things about our Deen is how much socialization goes and happens in our communities. And at that time, we always talk about technology ruining it, but in this case, technology may be actually saving it because so subhanallah. So alhamdulillah, thank you very much for your contribution. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think that's it. So, we just look forward to staying in touch with the community and make sure people are staying in touch with each other virtually, I guess, as well. So just try to keep that community spirit going as well that we had in a physical space, but in a virtual space, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to try to keep that as well, too. So,
inshallah, good. And this won't be the last time we hear from you. Inshallah, we'll make our rounds, and eventually, inshallah, we'll get back to Brother Sami Katovic next time we have any announcements. And as you know, Sami Katovic is the executive director of MBIC. And some of these ideas, so some of the people who aren't from the MBIC community, you could take from these ideas and implement them in your own community. So, Jazakumullah khair, Brother Sam, inshallah, we'll be in touch again.
Jazakumullah.
Walaikum salam. All right, let's turn now if there are any comments or questions from the live chat. All right. All right, Maliki Click from Seattle, Washington, if I'm not mistaken. Seattle, Washington, or some other city in Washington State. So far in the northwest of the country is listening in, and he hopes everyone is doing well and safe. And again, don't underestimate these little du'as. This is what keeps our these du'as, when they pile up together, it has an impact. Hope you and your family are well. Jazakallah khairan. And likewise, hope you and your family are well. Some other people asking about the classes, so they've been answered there. All right, well, we can wait a second and see if there are any comments or questions. Inshallah. Stick them in right now. All right, please give us some useful tips or advice for children at home. Well, I would just keep it to what we said yesterday, because I believe that simplicity is best. And we said a couple things yesterday. And number one is that it's the routine. All right, it's the routine. And routines are, things you do every day that fill up your day. And so in the absence of a routine, chaos fills the day. And as you know, if you have a garden and you don't purposely plant your garden, you don't purposely put something good in the garden, what happens? You get weeds, right? So the routine should be, there should be a time for sleeping, a time for waking up. There should be a time for cleaning, all right? House gets clean morning and evening. There should be, you wake up and you change, you dress nicely. There should be a way to exhaust yourself, to tire yourself, right? From the regular day, we might get tired from walking, driving, doing all these things. But at home, you don't. So we have to artificially exhaust ourselves, right? And by running, by doing things like this, by doing, jump rope. Alhamdulillah, it's spring. You could take walks. You could run down the street. You can jog in the street, right? So it's gatherings. You're not literally stuck in the house. So if we can create for ourselves routines and stick to a simple set of guidelines and not complicate things, then we enter this routine. And then hopefully that removes, you don't it's not just about plucking weeds, it's displacing weeds. You displace the type of bad things that could happen when there's idle time. Idle time is a horrible thing, right? And no structure. So now we have to create. And I think now by day 5 and by the end of this week, most people will have a structure in place, that there's certain Mondays look like